we're going to get on the chair in dresses before we came in. I think we did it pretty good. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are extremely excited to be here. I have some selfish questions that I'd love to ask Lorraine along the way, but also hopefully some educational ones as well. So to jump right in, if you could just give us a little bit about your background and tell us about yourself personally, not professionally.
Hi, everyone. I'm so delighted to be with you this morning. I'm Lorraine Barber-Miller. And maybe from a personal perspective, I grew up outside of the Philadelphia area. I'm a Northeasterner, true to my heart, although I have traveled and lived internationally a number of times throughout my career. And my parents actually instilled, a sense of education, lifelong learning, and a strong work ethic. So a little bit about how I grew up. And at a very young age, I developed a real passion and interest in creativity, design elements, and how best to apply that in the business world, but through marketing as my profession. And so my career spans over 25 years. I started my career with IBM. I was there for 21 years in sales, marketing, and communication roles. Had an opportunity to work domestically, but also internationally in Dubai and in Prague. After IBM, I was with ADP as the global CMO. And about 2.5 years, and about 3 years ago, I joined Philips. And I also just came back from about 2 years living in Amsterdam. So I've had the privilege of being in some of the most beautiful cities in the world, but also great to be back in the US. So a little bit about myself, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the work that we're doing at Philips.
Thank you so much. So now I would love to just kind of go over to your current role at Philips. So the perception of the brand has always been electronics first, right? Now you've moved a little bit away from that and more towards a consumer-centric brand. One thing that when we were talking prior to this that I found to be extremely exceptional was you had to get behind that and you had to help lead the brand globally to make that adjustment and that change. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you did that? Because that's like, how?
Sure. So as you rightfully said, Roseann, I think most of us would recognize Philips for the historical consumer electronics innovation. Now, in our business today, we have both a B2B side of the house, which you would recognize in hospitals, doctors' offices, med tech, medical devices. And on the flip side, we still have a B2C part of our business, consumer health products. You would recognize some of our most beloved brands like Sonicare, Norelco here in the US, some mother and child care products, etc. And so, I think our prior CEO, had recognized that there was this unmet need in the world, which was to provide quality and access to healthcare to people around the world. And so he made the big bet to pivot us away from being a consumer electronics company, using the assets and the resources that we have to addressing that unmet need and shifting the ambition of the company to health tech. That's where we are today. So it's important to kind of understand that background. And as you say, then, when I entered the picture about 3 years ago, I set an ambition to build a world-class marketing and e-commerce function in support of that ambition, in support of the business growth, and to become the strategic partner to our consumers and to our customers. So while we're starting from a position of strength, we are repeatedly ranked as one of the most valuable brands in the world by Interbrand. That's still not enough. We have to transform the function in order to meet the overall ambition that we have as an organization. So I set out the ambition to build world-class capabilities. Now, I joined February 2020. I landed in Amsterdam by the end of the month. We all know what was happening at that point in time. So here I am in a new country, new company, new transformation, new team, and 2 weeks later we were in lockdown. So the transformation that I'm going to describe, we essentially accomplished or implemented through the screen. 3,000 practitioners around the world, marketing, communications, digital, e-commerce, 3,000 people around the world. And I came in and I said, we're going to reimagine everything. Now, I'm not a health tech specialist. I'm from outside of the industry. And I respectfully understood what they had done, because clearly for 130 years, the company has been very successful. But I said, I want to self-disrupt before anyone else does it to us, and let's build world class. So that sounds easy. The journey we've been on, I think for me personally, has required a lot of agility, curiosity. I've had to ask a lot of questions to learn the industry, understand how have things been done? How can we reimagine them and do them differently or better, right? But at the same time, you have to have the resilience and the tenacity to press forward in a historic, institution of 130 years with a strong culture. And yet you have to transform while you perform for the business in uncertain times. So it's been a great journey, and I'm happy to share more about how exactly we did that and what we did.
Thank you. So you talk a lot about transformation. You obviously had to have the right people in place. Having the right people in place on your team, but then also having the right consumer on the other side of the messaging. Not always easy, as a lot of us could probably attest to. So what I would love to understand a little bit more is, as we're moving towards a world of clutter, and we have to make sure that there's, you could essentially watch content anywhere now at any time on any streaming platform or cable network. And, when you're thinking about making that emotional connection, how are you bringing that over to your marketing strategy? And how are you implementing that connectivity between, it's not only serving your messaging to the person that's necessarily within your universe or who you're looking to target, but it's also making sure that that consumer is resonating with your brand and the changes that you're making. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I always come back to our purpose. And as a company, our purpose is to improve the health and well-being of billions of people's lives on an annual basis through our innovation. It comes down to people, right? Because as I said, 3,000 people all through a screen, I can lead, but ultimately the people will make or break your transformation. They will either determine that they follow you and they will, drive change and make the transformation sustained, embedded in the organization, or they will reject the transformation, and then you can't drive the agenda that you want. So, and by the way, when I had joined Philips, I very quickly found out that this transformation had been attempted 3 times prior. Unbeknownst to me, of course. And so I said, I'm up for the grand challenge. And so I come back and I say it's about our purpose, and it's a human brand. I mean, if your personal health is not human, I don't know what else is. And it comes down to not only our people, but as you say, our consumers, our customers, our patients. And so that North Star, understanding who you serve every day, is absolutely critical. And what I will tell you is, I took on the challenge to transform an organization that historically, where marketing equaled product launches and events. Very traditional. And I came in and I said, I want to make this completely digital first and data driven. So we're now using AI and ML in our marketing. We can certainly talk more about that. But I think I had to step back, first of all, and I had to understand, or I had to articulate to the organization, not only my team, but also all of our stakeholders, the why, the what, and the how of the transformation. People need to understand, why are you changing? what are you going to change and how are you going to do it and what's going to be the end result? When people can understand the role that they're personally going to play in that, they can get on board. I don't think anyone's going to deny the customer or the consumer is the ultimate North Star. If you extract yourself out of kind of the internal day-to-day and put them as that North Star, I think most people want to be part of achieving that purpose in service of them. And so, change is really hard. Transformation is really hard. Most transformations fail, as we know. But I think the key was how to create followership, belief, that shared vision, the mutual accountability, not only with my own team, but importantly with other stakeholders. So I spend actually quite a bit of my time with other stakeholders. So for example, other functional leaders, not only the CEO, but let's say finance, HR, IT, supply chain, legal. Everyone has to be on board because, as you know, our profession, our function touches every aspect of the business. So business leaders, market leaders, every leader, has to believe in this because I can lead it from a functional perspective. They have to make it real within their own organizations and their teams. And so that requires quite a bit of communication, repetitive, engagement, showing successes. So, there are aspects about my leadership and what I've learned, what I've had to do with others in the organization, whether it's my team or my peers. But it's something that you have to do to bring people along because, as I say, change is so hard, but yet it's all about the people.
I think you're being slightly humble right now in saying, because you do a lot more than just bringing people along with you. You empower them. And to that point, I'm going to brag on your behalf right now. So you are the first female CMO in Philips' 131-year history. I know personally for me, that is such an inspiration. And I often tell my 7-year-old daughter, if you can see her, you can be her. So one thing that when we spoke about, when you and I chatted prior to this, you had mentioned a program that Philips has called Empower Her.
Yes.
I would love to know a little bit more about that and your role within that program and that network, and just your mentorship in general and all the work that you do in that area.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. I am the first female CMO of the company in the history of the company. Now, I'm an optimist, and I believe as women, we've made a lot of progress. But yet I don't believe that our progress has been bold enough. And so, I look forward to one day when I'm no longer referred to as a female leader, but yet a leader. And I take that as my... Thank you. And so I take that as a personal responsibility because I do believe that there is no room in which we don't belong. And by the way, that's beyond females. That is a diversity and inclusion statement as well. And so as a leader, it's my obligation to ensure that my talent, my people represent the markets which we serve. And so I'm very proud to say that my leadership team is a 50-50 mix. The entire population of 3,000 people, 58%, are females. Now, that didn't happen coincidentally. That was very intentional. There were many times when I asked talent acquisition to go back. The slate wasn't diverse enough. And by the way, we are obviously an international company, so I want to see not only gender, but ethnicity. I want to see diversity of experience, diversity of thought. Right? And so we have to reflect the people, the population we serve in the world. And so, it's my intention to create that type of diversity in my own organization. And I do believe it makes us stronger because it challenges our ways of thinking and challenging conventional wisdom and norms in what has been a very traditional industry, right? Healthcare hasn't been the fastest moving, fastest changing industry, as we know, particularly here in the US. And so we need to inject, some of that, getting comfortable in the uncomfortable by bringing in the diversity. So I take that very personally, and so do my leaders. Now, I will also say Since I've joined the organization, we also have changed quite a bit of our messaging and our advertising to reflect that population that we're serving. So, for example, not every doctor needs to be an older white male. And not every nurse needs to be the white female, right? And then I will also tell you within like our respiratory business, we actually got some feedback from customers where they said, wait a minute, your packaging, your messaging is all about to the white population. Did you know in the US that the vast majority of the population that suffers from respiratory illness or disease is actually African American? Got to change that immediately, and we have, And then even on another example, Roseann, I think, our grooming business on our website, on Philips.com, we used to have a section by gender. Well, based on feedback, people have told us, well, actually, I'm not interested in the gender split. Actually, I want products or grooming products or solutions based on the part of the body that I want to remove hair from. The head, the face, the legs, whatever. So now it's based on the body section or part and not about the gender. And therefore, all of our packaging, our messaging has to go in line with all of that. And so I think that's also, while we haven't always done things well from the beginning, I think we are a learning organization. And we have taken that real-time feedback to sense, to learn, to respond to the consumer, to the patient. And it's a journey, right? You're forever learning about your customer or your consumer.
Thank you. So, just, I know we started on a personal note. Would love to end on a personal note. So, Philips' tagline, for anyone that doesn't know, is there's always a way to make life better. So, from your perspective, what are some ways that you make your life better? And then what's some advice that you have for us professionally and personally to make life better?
So for myself personally, I go back to my upbringing. I shared with you my parents instilled a strong sense of education and a strong work ethic. So what I've always carried with me has been, I'll call it learning agility and curiosity. I've always taken on roles that either others could not do or chose not to do, right? And I threw myself into new industries, new parts of the world, new portfolios, and I said, I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to transform it and drive progress, and that's the legacy that I leave. So for me, it's about lifelong learning, that curiosity and the learning agility. I often tell my team, in terms of maybe some parting words, for whatever it's worth, I think our profession is a business leadership role. It is not the brand people. It's not the campaign people. In order to elevate the value that we bring, we need to follow the money. We need to understand how money is made in our organizations. And I actually don't believe anyone would deny you a meeting if not only did you understand how money was made, but you had a plan on how to make more money. Right? People at the top are going to take every meeting. It's how you drive growth, right? And so it's really about having that business mind first, that enterprise mindset versus just functional. I mean, of course, we have the seat at the table based on our functional expertise, but we are enterprise leaders because, as I said earlier, we touch every aspect of the business. We are the voice of the consumer. If not us, then who? And so I would really encourage us to really understand how money is made, understand the customer, the consumer deeply. Not only understand, but anticipate their needs. Easier said than done. But I also think that's how brands will stay relevant and will thrive in the environment that we're all in, which is that the speed at which things are changing and demanded of us is incredible. But that's also, the beauty and why I'm so passionate and I love what we do. But it's really about understanding the customer, the consumer, anticipating their needs, and driving the growth for the business.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was an absolute pleasure. You're an inspiration to all of us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.